Hello everyone, today I'll be... oh gosh, not this Nightfall. Unfortunately this week I'll be going for the solo Grandmaster Cosmodrome on Warlock. For my subclass I'll be using Dawn Blade or the super quality Daybreak. This is probably the most annoying Bungie GM Nightfall I have ever played in my life. This is probably the most annoying part because we have to escort a payload, or maybe a reference from Overwatch. I'm not 100% sure where they got this from. But to move the payload, you have to take down the two barrier champions. Now for this method, you can pull back from the mini cliff. And for this loadout, I am using blinding grenades with auto-loading holster. Alright. And I am using a machine gun, which is not crafted. When I was doing this run, I didn't have all the patterns. So because of that, it makes this GM way more harder and way more frustrating. So I do highly recommend to get all the patterns for the fixed odd with the field prep and inconsistent. Enhanced, by the way. We are using the exotic scout, the Polaris Lance or Lance. Make sure you take down all the barrier champions or these cute little dangerous baby servitors. There will be our captain that will be immune and hang around with the barrier champions. Be aware that it shoots solar. And it could be a pain, especially if it does hit your guardian. Now, right now, I'm just trying to get my super, just in case if something bad happens. Now, escorting the payload, right? This is where LFG has trouble. And when I say trouble, I'm talking about they just touch the payload, pull back, and then there's infinite amounts of ads. To make sure you don't have infinite amount of ads, you have to escort the payload around 33%. So when escorting the payload, there will be a sniper from left or right. It is completely RNG for me, for my experience. So the snipers actually spawn from the right side. So I am hugging the payload from the left side to shield myself from the snipers. Another thing I like to mention is I am using restoration and then blinding the ads at the same time so I can escort the payload to 33%. You can also use your super if you are on red health. So this was pretty much risky, but I do recommend to use your super if you are on red health and if you are close to going back to orbit. Now this is when the brig spawns, and I wanted to take down a couple of mini wave ads where the ship spawns, mini wave, Fallens, Vandals, and Sniper, of course. And things can be kind of tricky because now we had to take down the brig. So the brig will be hanging around, and this is when we have to rely on Polaris Lance or the machine gun. Now just be aware that the machine gun, once again, is not crafted, because I know someone's gonna comment saying, "Okay, Blitz, you should use the inconsistent." But here's the problem: I didn't have the machine gun, unfortunately, for this run, because a month ago I didn't have the crafted fixed odds, or a month and a half. Now you can clear the ads, but for me, I want to take down the brig. When you do take down the brig, then you will spawn the barrier champions. Just be super careful when dealing with the brig. When the brig is going psychopathic mode, Bungie mode, I like to go all the way from the left side, or you can go all the way more to the left corner near the wall if you want to, where you can just spam the Bungie right out of the Polaris Lance at the break. Just be aware, of course, don't get too close to the break where it can shoot its solar attack, which will send you back to orbit. Not only that, the captain can shoot far distance for some reason, I'm not sure why. So when we do take down the brig, then take down the the barrier Bungie champion, barrier champion. Now I did ignore the arc captain. The reason why I did that is because, well, I lost my patience on this run. Let's just be completely honest. And I don't blame you if you lost your patience for this run. And because I want to despawn half of the ads. This is where you can escort the payload. And this is when you can actually use your Roman super to escort the payload. Now it depends of you where you can clear all the ads and then escort the payload. For me, I didn't do that. I rely on the blinding grenades. There will be explosive shanks, so make sure you spam the blinding grenades or the machine gun depending of your build. So I was dodging all these solar attacks, and yes, I could have used my Roman super to make it less dangerous as it should be. This is what happens when you lose your patience, so I did pull back to grab some heavy because my special was actually really low. It was actually 6, but now it's 22. So just spam nades, and please, for the love of the Traveler Speaker, do not jump on that top platform. It will spawn wizards, and it's just not going to be a fun experience. So once you get to 83%, this is when things get tricky, where we have to clear all the ads. Of course, you could use your super if you have it, or you could pull back and spam the Polaris Lance or your machine gun, depending on what situation you are. For your Warlock, or if you're in your Hunter, you can use your super. Or if you're your Titan, you can use your Hammer super. Or with the stasis turret build, you could just spam a bunch of turrets with blinding grenades. It's up to you, depending on the subclass and loadout you're going for. Or you could use Dragon's Breath if you don't like the Polaris Lance. So once I do clear all these ads, which is completely frustrating, I am trying my best not to swear in this, but this video deserves a lot of swearing. Now we're going to deal with the arc captains. This is why I use the blinding grenades, because the arc captains are a pain in the Bungie. And the boss fight, which I will talk about it and roast the Bungie out of it very soon once we get there. We got this resistant captain stuck on the payload for some reason. I'm not sure why, but hey, it's great, right? And also there is a heavy brick from the left side. It doesn't give you full heavy ammo like it does for the moon, unfortunately. There will be shriekers, but they will be awake during the barrier champion phase, or the unstoppable. So now we're going to deal with 2 unstoppable champions and a bunch of Thralls. This is just going to be so fun for you, but not for me. This is going to be a nightmare. Now let's fight the console aim assist, where you aim the Polaris Lance upper to the crit spot. And we're going to talk more about it on the ghost phase, which I despise so much because it's just so unfair. Make sure you use the Polaris Lance as much as you can if the unstoppable barrier champion is too close and he is on his finisher. you must use your finisher and then back away and do DPS at the second unstoppable champion. So just be super cautious, especially during this part when you do take down the 2 champions. Then the 2 shriekers are going to be awake and spam their void attack. It is going to be extremely painful, let me just tell you that. So be aware that the void attack is going to be very dangerous. It can melt your character depending on the resilience, depending of if you have double void resilience or none void resilience. But when you do take down these shriekers, then we're going to be dealing with more champions, and it's just going to get better and better. Not only that, there will be a wizard that will appear, the one where it somehow copied the Warlock super. And yes, it's just going to get better and better. This is where things can be even more nightmarish, where we got a spawn of a barrier champion, unstoppable champion. So I decided to go on this corner, and the reason why is because console aim assist. I wasn't able to take down the barrier and unstoppable from the backside. And that's just me, by the way, everyone's different. Just to do DPS the barrier and unstoppable. So there is a barrier that is doing ballerina twirls, as you can see here. I'm not joking or over exaggerating. So I want to use my super, right? But for some reason my Dawn Blade, my super was not hitting the barrier champion. It was for some reason it wanted to hit the wizard boss. I don't know why. I was just having so much bad luck. So we did took down the unstoppable champion, and now we got 2 more ballerina twirl barrier champions that we had to take down. And it's just going to take a while, because now we have to make sure we quickly take down these barrier champions, because having 2 of them shooting you at the same time and both of them going hugs and just sticking together can be a pain, to the point where it's just best to use your Polaris Lance, right? And then of course use the machine gun. But as I said before, the machine gun I have isn't the best, because during this run I didn't have all the patterns for the fixed odds. So we're going to take down the next barrier champion. And then once we take down this barrier champion, then we'll make our way dealing with the wizard. So I was doing some DPS at the wizard. You know, taking my time here. Alright, so once I do take down the wizard, then I'm going to crush the ghost immediately. Do not let the ghost revive itself. We're going to escort the payload to go to the entrance. And where do I begin? Probably the worst part through this entire GM or Battlegrounds. This is the part where I really despise, where we actually need to take down the wizards. So if you want to, you can use your super during this area, but you can see how completely tanky these Arcanites are. Now I really, really hate this spot. There is actually other ways to deal with this phase, which I didn't do for this footage, by the way, until later on I was doing some testing. But you can actually clear down the ads from the left side until the third phase, or the pre-third phase, when the acolytes and the ads start to spawn from the left side. In my opinion, I think that'll be way easier than just being at this spot during the first and the second phase. And then during the mini third phase and third phase, you can stand at this spot. There will be a wizard, which we despise, and 2 unstoppable champions. The best thing I can think of is taking down the wizard. Take down the wizard if you can. If you have your super, just use it at the wizard. I should have used my super to clear down the ads, to clear down the wizard, the mini boss. This is the mini boss that will mess up your run, especially dealing with the champions. You can also use your machine gun to take down a wizard. Their health isn't that bad, it's just their arc attack is extremely dangerous and extremely painful. And just remember, when you do see a wizard, take them down and then deal with the champions. You can also do ignition or scorch the ads, and of course get your super back if you do Polaris Lance and do crit shots at the unstoppable champions, if they are unstoppable champions. Now for this phase, of course, it is 2 unstoppable champions. There is one from the middle front, or I would say the left side if we are on the far left side of the room. And then there's one from the right side, just browsing. And of course, there are a bunch of arc captains. Now the reason why it's somewhat easier for me to take down these arc knights is I blinded the arc captains. That way I can do DPS and take them down, and of course use my super, if I do have it, to take down the champions. Now once you take down the 2 champions and the wizard, please take down the wizard. If you don't take down the wizard and just continue clearing the ads here and there, you're going to have 2 wizards. Then you're going to have 3 wizards. It's going to be nearly impossible to clear all the wizards when there are a bunch of champions in one go. Unless you use your super, but then they could melt you when you're on your super. That's another problem. And yes, these Arcanites are extremely tanky. Very soon we will have to deal with more champions. Now during the second phase, which you will see very soon, there will be unstoppable champions. To go to the second phase, you just have to keep clearing the ads, even though it's infinite. 2 unstoppable champions. And a high purifier, or in other words, the wizard. Yes, the wizard. So please make sure you take down the wizard. And yes, you can use the unstoppable champion to scorch the wizard, to make the wizard stay in the middle. And make sure you take down the wizard. Please, for the love of the traveler speaker. But I really don't like this spot. This spot is so strict. I mean, look at this. This is absolutely bungeed, alright? And I don't like the fact that I had to rely on this little tunnel just to take my, just to do DPS at these tanky Scorn or these Hive Captains or the Wizards or the Champions. So I'm going to be using my super, and yes, the Staff Champion tried to one-shot me. My bad for that. And we're going to be clearing down all these ads. So now we're at the pre-third phase. The pre-third phase is when the Acolytes are spawning from the left side of the room. You can see right there, Acolytes are spawning from the left room. This is the pre-third phase. For me, everyone's different. I like to call it the pre-third phase. And the reason why I say the pre-third phase, right, is because there's a bunch of ads spawning, right? Knights, yes, and it's bug, right? It's completely bugged. They're going to be teleported. Be aware that our captains will be teleporting during the pre-third phase like that. What the Bungie is that? Did you see that? It just teleported. Okay, sorry. I'm going to calm down a bit. There was just so many bugs going on. And this is when I had to put down the PS5 controller or the Xbox controller if you are on Xbox and just say, wow. We're still on the third pre-phase. And I really despise this so much. Because we had to keep clearing the ads. We got these Arc Captains shooting Arc. And then we're going to be dealing with champions very soon. You only have this much space to do precision shots. And then with the console aim assist, and yes, you could shoot above the crit spot, but sometimes it doesn't work. Especially on this spot, this door. How the Bungie can I do the crit spots if they're just moving around, hiding? It's just absolutely ridiculous. I really despise this. That's why I was using the blind grenades. Now, if you think this is bad, imagine with no blinding grenades or stasis turret build. All the Arc Knights are going to shoot to the door, and you won't even have any space. So now there is going to be a wizard. What I should have done here is I should have used my super and then take down the wizard. But luckily, I was able to take down 2 wizards when the second wizard did spawn. So another thing you can do during this part is you can try your best to take down the wizard. And if it doesn't work out, then use your super to take down both of the wizards. So you can see that there is one wizard and then the next wizard. So as I said, during this pre-third phase, which we're still here, unfortunately, you can use your super to take down the wizards. So when you do take down the wizards, now we're going to have 3 barrier champions. But the good news is that we took down the wizards. So we don't have to worry about them spamming arc near the door. But that's just one thing I don't like about the pre-third phase. The pre-third phase is when you have a spawn of wizards. And for some reason at the third phase, there is 2 wizards. Because I wasn't able to scorch the enemies or, of course, use the precision shots with the Polaris Lance to make a condition and clear all the ads easily, I wasn't able to take down the first wizard fast. Then I had these 2 wizards hanging around. Another thing I like to mention is sometimes the description, the Hive Purifier appears. Sometimes it doesn't even say they appear. You just have to hear the sound of the wizards or hear the sound of the arc blast. So this is the part where things get tricky, where there's going to be a bunch of arc captains. and then barrier champions. I wanted to try to take down these ARC captains because I couldn't see. I mean, with the aim assist, I was really hoping that the barrier champions will cooperate and then just walk in the middle of the map so I can spam the Polaris Lance or the exotic scout rifle. So it's basically the patience game. And I'm trying to do precision shots as much as I can that way. And hopefully he won't do those ballerina twirls. But because of the flinch and aim assist, it just wasn't working out too much. But yeah, it's really unfair. I really don't like this. This is probably the most unfair GM I have ever done this season. It's so unfair. I mean, look at this. I'm trying to go for my precision shots, but my Guardian is moving left, right, up, down, left, south, north, south, east, west. Extremely frustrating, and because of that I had to use my super to clear down these captains because I couldn't get my DPS because of this auto aiming. It was extremely frustrating, and I despise it because it's unfair. I feel like I'm limited, I'm held back. I can't even get my precision shots or crit shots with this barrier champion. Even though I shoot above the head of the barrier champion, the ARC captains keep shooting this ARC blast and making my character flinch a bit. Or flinch everywhere. This is why it's best to try to chain the ignition and scorns so you can do DPS the barrier champion. But it is sometimes nearly impossible to do that when you do have the auto aiming and you're trying to do DPS, but it's not working out. Then you have to use your super to take down these captains for a while so you can at least take down the barrier champions, at least one of them. So once we take down one of the barrier champions, then we're going to have two barrier champions. There's one in the back right there hiding, doing ballerina twirls. Once again, ballerina twirls. So I want to do precision shots from the back. But then the bell was blocking the way, and then it did the ballerina twirl again. So it didn't work out too much. So plan B was to deal with the barrier champion from the right side. Or from the left side. But here's the problem. He's shooting this annoying attack. And I was debating, should I take down the barrier from the left side or take down this barrier with the solar? So the solar barrier champion was too dangerous for me to do DPS. I realized that there was just limited and very strict for me to do DPS at the barrier champion from the left side, the one that's shooting solar, because if you get too close to the barrier champion, you can get one shot from it. So the best thing I can think of in this situation is take down the barrier champion from the back side. And then I found this itty bitty little space that somewhat work for me, where you pop healer rip, and then you just do DPS and spam the Bungie out of the Polaris Lance to do DPS the barrier champion. Be aware, it will do ballerina twirls. And it will bug out. Sometimes the barrier champions bug out, and of course, especially the ARC captains, they bug out during the pre-third and the third phase, and sometimes the second phase for this room. So now things are going to be somewhat easier, but just be extremely cautious. Sometimes the ARC captains will teleport next to you at this spot. I had moments where the captains will teleport next to me and then they two-shot me. So just be super aware and take down the barrier champion as fast as you can, because you must take down these ARC captains because they bug out everywhere. So now we're going to deal with the boss, the pre-boss fight. Now someone could argue and say, why don't you push and then just use Polaris Lance? Well, The reason why is because he likes to spam that Sentinel shield. This boss likes to pretend he's a Titan and spam the Bungie out of it. And the Sentinel shields can sometimes track your Guardian. That's why I didn't push. And that's why I just stayed on my safe spot. Because I don't want to do DPS at Polaris Lance. I'm like, oh, he's using his super. Gotta turn back. And then I turn back, right? And then he one-shots me when I'm just running back to my safe spot. It's just not worth it at all. And because of that situation, yeah, I just said, all right, well, let me just use my super when his health is somewhat low instead of the beginning. So we're going to engage the mind scrap or mindscape. And we're going to go to this mini cheese spot because why not? This is when you really need to play aggressively and try your best to stun lock the boss. Now this boss will hide behind walls. During the first phase, he's either going to hide from the left side behind a wall, or he's going to hide behind the rail wall, the red wall. Looks like he's hiding from the left side wall. What you can do here is, if you have Dragon's Breath, you can shoot a rocket so you can make the boss move. Unfortunately, I don't have that, so I actually had to try to do precision shots at the wizards or ads so it can scorch the boss. Or try to bait the boss by just shooting the floor to make it move. And if you do have an explosive payload or time payload weapon with you, you can also use that method to try to bait the boss. Once he is out in the open, waving at you, say, hey, look at me, I'm right here, Guardian. You can just spam Polaris Lance as much as you can. And I'm serious, you need to spam it. No regrets. Just spam it before he hides behind the wall. Because not only he's going to hide there, he'll take his sweet time to stay there as long as he can. And he will make you lose your patience. And be aware of the Sentinel shield. I don't recommend you jump. That's one thing I would highly advise. There is a safe spot where you can pull back a little bit from the cheese spot to make sure the Sentinel shield doesn't hurt you. Because the problem for this situation is the Sentinel shield can hurt you. It can track you from this cheese spot if you are near the edge of the cheese spot platform. Alright, so now we're going to go to the second phase where we have to pick up the arc staff from the middle. Oh boy, where do I even begin? Not only that, they will be unstoppable from the far back middle, which I highly recommend you spam Polaris Lance because trust me, he's going to be hiding in copy of what the boss was doing, hiding behind the walls from the right side or the left side. When you do take down the champion, the Savathun goes. Yes, the Savathun goes, or the aspects of Savathun, but we're gonna call it Savathun goes. This is where we have to pick up the arc staff to do DPS at the Savathun goes. Now here's the problem. There's gonna be infinite waves of ads. It has a cooldown. 2, the Savathun, she's going to be hanging around the arc staff. What the Bungie do we do in this situation? Well, That's why I wanted to go for blinding nades. And that's why I had to buy my controller, because the square button wasn't working out. See, the problem is when you do pick up the arc staff, you have to move your character and pick up the arc staff at the same time. See, the problem with the controller, which I have right here, is you have to hold square, let go of the analog stick from your right side, and then move your character. So that means that the boss can shoot arc at you or stomp you if it is close by to the arc staff. So then the situation gets frustrating where I had to bind it with R3, where I had to go around this corner and then clear the as to pick up the arc staff. But during this part, it didn't work out too much because the boss was near close to the arc staff, where I had to back away and then wait for the infinite amount of ads once again and try again. So that's another problem. It's extremely frustrating and difficult to pick up the arc staff on console because we had to let go of our right analog stick and hold square. Now what makes it worse is on Xbox, which I have the Xbox controller with me right here, is the analog stick is from the top left side, and then we got the analog stick from the bottom right side. So that means we have to hold the X button and then let go of our right analog stick, which controls your guardian to move, to turn, and to go to a cheese spot. So this is the problem where things can be tricky, where I actually, like I said, had to buy my controller, use R3, this button, if anyone can hear the sound, so I can pick it up more efficiently. Now, when you do pick up the arc staff and shoot and do DPS at the Savathun Ghost, the Savathun Ghost will move from the left side a bit. This time, she won't be too close to the arc staff, which will make somewhat easier. Another problem with this situation when going for the Solar subclass Warlock is you have to blind the enemies, clear a couple of ads here and there, and then blind the enemies if they are close by. Like this, for example. See? Had to blind them. I missed. Restoration. R3. Move character. And then R1 to teleport. And then DPS. Extremely frustrating. So during the second staff, the arc staff, this is when the boss backs away, and then now things are way more easier. So the only thing I can think of in this situation is if you are having trouble with your controller, especially on the PS5 or Xbox, where you're trying to hold a square, but then your character doesn't move so much. You can't make your character run or turn the camera while you hold the square button or the X button. You will have to bind your controller to R3 or L3, depending your play style, so that way you can quickly grab the arc staff without dying. So now we're going to go to the next phase. This phase isn't really too bad. The problem is the boss likes to hide. Now, there is a trick where you can use the Polaris Lance when it does spawn in the middle, and then you can stun lock it. Now, I did try to stun lock it from the left side, But the problem is, sometimes he likes to hide and then spam his Sentinel Shield. And be aware that the Sentinel Shield can hurt you, so you must back away a little bit to the safe zone if he is spamming the Sentinel Shield. And he does it around 3 times, by the way. And if it's a bit too dangerous, to the point where it's close to your character, you can use your super to do DPS at the boss, and then the super won't hurt you. I'm gonna fast forward this bit. So basically, I'm just doing DPS at the boss. He's hiding. He's basically just spamming his super, and he seems to just hang around this spot. Another test run I did, if you have an explosive payload, you can just either throw a grenade launcher, of course, or just shoot the floor to make the boss move to this spot here. That's one thing I noticed, which I haven't really done so much for this run. Now, this is the last phase where things can be tricky. We're gonna have 2 Savathun ghosts. I mean, if you guys thought the first one was bad and horrendous and a nightmare, well, just wait till this phase, because not only we got 2 of these Savathun ghosts, we got the last champion that we need to take down to get platinum, and of course we have to take it down. I mean, it'll be nearly impossible to pick up the arc staff while the champion is running around like a psychopath spamming its void, and the Savathun ghost spamming archive blast. So not only you have to do DPS at this unstoppable champion, you gotta dodge the Savathun ghost from the left side. Now sometimes, if it wants to behave, it will move a little bit more to the left or to the back and stop shooting this archive blast. If it feels like it, alright? Like right here, right now it's just minding its own business. It got bored of me, and it's all the way from the back. See, sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes this boss just spams archive blast, even though for 5 minutes, and then just wants to harass my poor guardian. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes it just gets bored of you and wants to cooperate, where it just stands there and behaves. And then once again, it decided to harass me again and move close to the arc staff and shoot archive at me, or Kai blast at me. Another reason to take down the barrier champ, another reason to take down the unstoppable champion is gonna hide behind that wall and pretend to be the boss. Alright? So now the unstoppable champion is not cooperating with me. He's hiding. So now I'm really getting bad luck. I mean, great. What else could go wrong in this Bungie battleground? So now the unstoppable champion is finally moving to the right spot. We got this ghost Savathun harassing me. Now this part's going to be really tricky, where I need to grab the arc staff. So I'm going to be clearing out a couple ads. And then we have to pick up the arc staff. Now there are 2 ways, and I haven't done the first method. The first method is you can grab the arc staff and then press the R1 twice to get to the cheese spot. You can press R1 if I'm mistaken, and then you can make it to the cheese spot. Now I didn't do that for this run. I actually only pressed it once and then just went back to the middle platform and then to the cheese spot. That's basically what I did for this run. When you do take down the Savathun ghost from the left side, the arc staff will still be there. So you can use the arc staff from the left side to do DPS at the right Savathun ghost. So yeah, isn't this fun? Isn't this fantastic? And one thing I would advise is make sure you have restoration or healing grenade just in case something bad happens or something goes wrong. So I did jump on this platform, grabbed the spear, the arc staff, the arc spear, and my bad for that. You can use the arc staff and then just jump in the middle, but of course the quickest way would be just jump across to the cheese spot and then just teleport 2 times. But as I said, I didn't do it for this run. Maybe I'll do it next time, but honestly, I really don't want to farm this GM on solo. I really don't want to do it. It's just a lot of work. Seems like a chore. So I'm gonna fast forward a bit until I can grab the arc staff, because I'm basically just clearing all the ads. Alright, so now I'm gonna go once again grab the arc spear. Or the Kai spear. And as I said before, yes, you can teleport 2 times and get to the cheese spot. I didn't do it in this footage. We're in the DPS, and for some reason, the right Ghost Savathun decided to shoot Archive Blast at me. Alright, I'm gonna fast forward. Alright, I'm gonna push and then grab the arc spear or the staff or Kai spear, any name you want to call it. And then we're gonna do DPS at this Savathun troll mini boss. Jesus Christ, what a troll. Absolutely ridiculous. And then we're gonna go again and again and again and again. SpongeBob reference, by the way. Another reason why I was waiting is because I want to make sure I have my healing grenade. I don't want to mess up my jump. I mean, there are times where I'm grabbing the arc staff and then he just shoots Kai Blast at the platform. I'm not even joking or over exaggerating. I'm serious. It's ridiculous. Sometimes it just behaves very awkwardly. So once we take down the first Ghost Savathun, now things are gonna be way more easier, somewhat. I mean, it'll still be a stressful run, but at least that troll, that Savathun troll that spams Kai Blast all over, you know, at least I'll take a break from it. Now you can grab the arc staff and then do DPS at the second Savathun. So I am gonna fast forward. So what you do over here is you just make your way to the arc staff and then just jump your way to the cheese spot to teleport 2 times, or you could just jump to the middle platform, which I did. Then you just continuing to do DPS until you get to the last phase. So I'm gonna fast forward this since this is gonna take a while. Yeah, isn't this fun? I'm having the best day ever. I'm the happiest guardian ever. When you see the boss in the middle, you spam the Bungie out of Polaris Lance. Just do it. I don't care if your girlfriend's calling, your boyfriend. This is very critical where you can spawn lock the boss, if you're lucky. The Polaris Lance stun locked him, and this was probably the best chance I've got before he hides from the wall to do DPS as much as I can and then just get this Nightfall done, because I was already fed up and sick of it. To be honest, I was losing my patience, alright, from the Bungie bugs and everything. So once his health is low, you use your super. Use your down blade, fly over there. Alright, do DPS, and then just crush the ghost. Just say platinum, done, I'm out of here. Alright? You crush the ghost, do not leave it alive. It will revive the boss. Then you have to do DPS all over again. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.